Hey, 7th grade. Welcome. Mr. Hildebrand here. This video is for Wednesday the 16th. Today we watched the second part of our myth on Jason and the Golden Fleece, Jason and the Argonauts. And so you can feel free to go to YouTube and check out the next part. Unfortunately, the very end of the story is not included in this one. So if you want to know how that one ends, you're going to have to do a little research on your own. Today we talked about Athens. And we just went over maybe their strengths and some of their weaknesses. So for example, we know that they had a very strong navy. They had these special ships called triremes. Had 3 layers of rowers, which made them very, very fast. And that they would sink enemy ships by ramming them, or this metal part down here. They would plunge it into the side to sink the enemy ships. So they had an excellent navy. We also talked about how at first they had a king, and then that's a monarchy, and eventually the nobles or the aristocrats, the people with money, overthrew the king and created an oligarchy. And then eventually the rest of the citizens, those who didn't own land, those who weren't rich, got fed up with that, and they demanded and instituted a democracy. And so democracy, or the rule of the people, or everybody voting and coming up with decisions together, started in ancient Athens. Now, the big kind of caveat or little asterisk or something I got to put on this one is we got to remember that in ancient Greece, even though Athens is saying they have a democracy and everybody is equal and everybody gets to vote, they're still not including women, and they still own slaves. So they don't really mean everyone. Okay, they just mean adult men in Athens. So we talked about that a little bit. So it was a step in the right direction, but they didn't get the whole way there. We talked about how they were very proud of their education and their learning, and how they believed that everybody in Athens, all the men, were smart enough to run the government and be in charge. And so they did have basically 10 generals who would run the army and the navy. They would serve as judges. They had a council of 500, and those people were elected or chosen. But they also had a council of 500 who would also help run the city. And these people were chosen by lot, or chosen by random, just because they believed that would give everyone a chance to serve. And also they believed that everybody in Athens was smart enough to help run the city. We talked about boys in Athens and how they were sent to basically private school. They had private tutors who would teach them math, writing, science, music, poetry. They also practiced and competed in sports. And so their learning kind of feels similar to maybe our schools today. The big difference here, okay, remember, it's only boys. Okay, so the girls weren't educated, and they were kept at home. And we'll see you talk about women in Athens in another second. The men would become citizens at age 18, and they would go to the temple of Zeus. They would take an oath, where they basically would swear allegiance to Athens to make it a better place, to be honorable and defend it in battle, to follow all the laws in the Constitution, and to honor the gods and respect the religion. So they would make that promise publicly in front of everyone. The women. Now, here's a big difference. When we talked about ancient Sparta, we talked about how women could choose their husbands. Women competed in sports and were physically fit. We talked about how women could be friends with whoever they wanted in Sparta, and they had a lot of freedom to kind of travel around and do as they please. Even though they weren't considered citizens and they didn't have any power in Sparta, life was okay, especially when we compare it to Athens. Okay, especially when we compare it to Athens. In Athens, women spent most of their time in the home, cooking, cleaning, raising the kids. They didn't really have options. Women in Athens were not allowed to leave without a chaperone, so they had to ask permission from a male family member to leave the house. They pretty much only went out to either visit other women or family members, or to go to religious festivals or go to the temple. Women never spoke to men out in public. In fact, they weren't really allowed to have male friends who weren't in their family. And so they were not very free. And life was, they were not considered citizen in ancient Athens. We talked a little bit, let's skip over that one for right now, about their culture right? How they loved art, literature, philosophy, music. They were always pushing themselves to be better, to be more creative, all because they wanted to honor the gods because of their strong religious beliefs. We talked a little bit about which city, if you got transported back in time, which city you would prefer to live in, and the advantages and disadvantages of both. And in some of our classes, we started in reading our Athens article, and others will start tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will also read through a quick Sparta article. We'll read that one. And then we will work on a T-chart. Okay, this is kind of a partial one. I'll post the finished one when we're all done with it. Comparing Sparta and Athens. And this is really going to help us when we go to do our project, which is where you'll be creating advertisement, trying to persuade people to visit either ancient Athens or ancient Sparta. But we'll get more into that tomorrow. As always, if you have any questions or need help, feel free to send me an email. I'd love to help you. All right, folks, have a great day.